Barbara, I have the spreadsheet here and I just printed it out, and I was expecting a handful of pages and got a lot more.
You did.
I did. I got like 10 pages and I was expecting it to be 4 or 5 pages. So I just would really like to know how many pages I'm printing so that I can make the adjustments before I waste my paper and my
Right.
ink. So can you help me
Sure.
with adjustments?
Definitely. One of the things that people often do is they finish their spreadsheet and they go and print. And they haven't gone and checked what it's going to print like. And then they go, huh? What's this? And for example, I'm noticing right here on your spreadsheet that there's a dotted line in between the ship to and the amount column. I bet you had a page here, and then you have another page with this information here, which doesn't help you a whole lot unless you put them side by side, right?
Right. Tape was involved.
Well, we don't need to worry about using up tape. We can save paper by checking all this beforehand. So why don't you go over to Backstage View? Let's go over there to the File tab. And remember, all the things as far as manipulations we can do to the file are in Backstage View.
Okay.
And print is about 2/3 of the way down. Let's click on print. First of all, what you have is a print preview. Notice at the bottom of the middle of the screen down there it says 1 of 10. Do you see that way down there? So it's telling you
Right
you're
here.
going to get 10 pages. And if you'll notice, the final column on page 1 is that ship to column, so we're missing information. Your right hand arrow down in the 1 of 10 will take you to the next page. Let's just flip over one page. Notice it's printing the next rows. It went down the worksheet.
Right.
So it probably gave you about 5 pages going down the worksheet, and then it went back to the top of the worksheet and started down again over in whatever that other column was, amount or whatever. Let's go back to page 1. So let's see what we can do to change this. First of all, notice at the top it says copies 1. If you only want 1 copy, you wouldn't have to change that number, but you can easily change that number just like in the past. The big difference here is notice your big fat print button.
Oh, I know, it is big.
It's huge. In fact, the first time I came in here, I'm like, okay, now where do I print? That's the button. You click that to print. So when you have everything set, this is what you'll do. Of course, the next area is where you can select your printer. So if you're connected to more than one printer, you can select a different printer. And you'll see all the different ones. We'll just stay with what we have right now.
Okay.
And then you have settings. And this starts getting into what am I going to print. And if you click on that drop down, you'll see you can print active sheets, the entire workbook, or print a selection.
Now, what's the difference between active sheets and the entire workbook?
All right. Remember, in our workbook, we have multiple worksheets. And so I could choose to print the whole workbook, which would mean any worksheet that has data on it prints.
Oh, okay. Okay.
If I choose print active sheets, you remember how we could select sheet 1 and sheet 2 and have them both selected at the same time?
Using control.
Right. Then we can print just sheet 1 and sheet 2. If I don't select multiple sheets, it just prints whichever sheet is active on my screen.
Okay, that makes sense.
So this is sheet 1 probably that we're looking at right now. You also have print selection. If you wanted to, you could highlight a cell range and choose print selection and only print that cell range.
So if I just wanted to print what happened in 1 week, I could highlight those and just print those.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now you'll notice down at the bottom of that list it says ignore print area. In the next module we're going to talk about the print area.
Okay.
But it's a specific area you can designate and it will always be what prints unless you ignore the print area.
Okay.
We'll explore that next module.
All right.
All right, so we'll just stay with print active sheets. That's the default setting. Notice the next area is print one-sided. If you have a printer that can print on both sides, you do have options in that drop down to print on both sides of the paper. Okay. Then you have collation. What does it mean to collate?
What order I want the pages to be in, like on a copier.
Right. So I want page 1 followed by 2 followed by 3. Or do I want 3 copies of page 1 then 3 copies of page 2? So uncollated would be 3 copies of page 1 then 3 copies of page 2, and collated would have them in sequence order.
Okay.
Normally you print in collated order unless you're doing handouts that you're going to give separately or for some reason.
Okay.
Then you have your paper size, your paper orientation, your paper orientation. Now you have portrait or landscape. Do you know the difference?
Portrait sounds like a painting.
Right. Portrait is the 8.5 by 11 running up and down, kind of like we have in our print preview here. Landscape, right, now you see the example, the wide area is the longer area as opposed to the height. So it's the paper's turned on its side, and the 8.5 is actually the height of the page, whereas the 11 is the width. So it's just shifting the paper sideways. And for example, notice here you come a little bit closer to getting all your information on the page by going to a landscape orientation.
Yeah, I got a couple of extra columns
You
there.
sure did. Now we don't have all the columns there. We can fix that. But one of the things that you can always check is if I switch it to landscape, will I get all the information I want on my sheet?
Okay.
Let's leave it at landscape.
All right.
Now the next one is letter. And you can choose whether to have an 8.5 by 11 sheet. Maybe you're going to print it on legal paper. Let's just choose that just for the fun of it. 8.5 by 14. Notice all of a sudden everything fits. And you only have 7 pages of print. So in this case, you would have all your data on one page running left to right and then have multiple pages of the rows.
Okay.
So that's one option. A lot of people don't use 8.5 by 14 because it doesn't fit in notebooks real well. So you've got to think
yeah.
about that. Let's go back to the 8.5 by 11.
Okay.
Custom margins is another thing you might decide you want to go with. The default margin is 3/4 inch at the top and at the bottom, and 0.7 inches left and right. Your header and footer has a little bit of a margin too. You could go to more of a 1 inch if you're trying to balance out the page a little more. Maybe you've got not as much information, so you want a broader one. In fact, custom margin you might choose if you're trying to get margins that are making the page look more balanced.
Okay.
So if you chose custom margins, let's go do that one real quick. There we go. Then you could come in and you could individually choose. And you might recognize this. This is the page setup dialog box from previous versions. So you can choose what margins you want. And you can even tell it where to put the data. Notice it says center on page horizontally and vertically down in the bottom.
Oh, yes.
So horizontally takes the data and centers it between the margins, left to right.
Okay.
Vertically takes it and centers it top to bottom, which if it's a one-page spreadsheet and it's not quite a full page, that gives it a more balanced look too.
Okay.
Because we're going to cancel here. We're not going to use those special margins. That is one thing you could have done to get everything on here. Changed your margins, seen if that would get there. Scaling is probably one of your best methods though. So let's go down to scaling. Notice you can say fit the sheet on one page. How many rows of data do you have? A lot, right?
Yeah, it is.
A lot.
It is a lot. 7
Fitting
pages.
everything on one page is probably a little too much.
It would be teeny.
Yes. You know, we're talking magnifying glass to read the thing, no matter what your eyesight is. Now, notice you could fit all columns on one page, and what we're missing is about a column or two, so why don't you look at that?
Okay.
Look, there's all your data. So all the columns fit on one page, and it says you have 7 pages of print.
Okay.
Which, remember when we looked at 8.5 by 14? It gave us 7 pages of print because everything fit.
Right.
So now we can get it on our 8.5 by 11. Now, it's shrunk some things down. It's changed maybe some font sizes, but it will fit all on one page. Now let's click on that drop down again. Notice if it's the situation of rows that you're trying to fit on the page. You can do that instead. So instead of fit all columns, you could fit all rows. It works the same way except we're dealing with rows instead of columns.
I don't think that that's going to work. I don't think I'll be able to fit 7 pages worth of rows on one page.
Not on this one. Not on this one. And you do have custom scaling options down at the bottom, so let's click on that one. This is also the page setup dialog box. And this is where you can say, okay, it was at 100%. Notice they brought it down to 94%. And we've got the one page wide.
Okay.
You could go up there to the adjust to and change the percentages if you wanted to. Or you could tell it how many pages wide by how many pages tall you want to print to.
Okay.
Normally, the scaling options in the drop down will take care of the issues that you have. I doubt you'll come into this one very much.
Okay. I like for it to take care of it for me and just
Yes,
make
it makes it easier, doesn't it? So you can click on OK there. Okay, we've seen the page setup dialog box several times. And notice at the bottom of our print options, we do have a page setup link. Go on and click that again, just so people can see this again. Page setup, in older versions of Microsoft Office was in the File menu. And notice we have our page options and our margins and so forth. If here he tells you, whether you're portrait or landscape, go ahead and click on margins.
Okay.
We were here just a moment ago where you could do your custom margins and you could center it on the page. We're not going to deal with header and footer right now because that's in a different module altogether, but go to the Sheet tab. This is also related to printing, and just one of the things I'd like to point out to you is you see that rows to repeat at top?
Yes, this one right here.
Okay. Your headers are on the first sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And only on the first sheet, but you have 7 pages. It might be worthwhile to have your headers, the date, ship to, amount, quantity, all that information to print on every page. Since we're in print preview, I can't take you out to select the rows.
Mm-hmm.
In the next module, when we talk about print area, I'll show you how to set up those print types.
Okay.
And that should solve your printing issues. The only other thing you might want to do is adjust your column headings so your data and your column headings line up better.
Yeah, that probably needs to be worked on. Well, that solves my problem, so now I know what to do.